You're grinding every day. Long hours, no backup, no accountability. That ends now. The Empower Solopreneur Mastermind gives you one simple advantage: a weekly power session that turns isolation into domination. Every Friday morning on Zoom, you'll get real coaching and real feedback to make real moves. Join a group of driven professionals in a program designed for solopreneurs and people working at home. Stop getting stuck. Start scaling. Seats are limited. Lock in yours today at modernobserver.com/empower-mastermind.
Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase, the podcast that helps you succeed in your business, life, and career. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing well, Eric. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic as we come off of our Thanksgiving break. And of course, because we're coming off of Thanksgiving, we're going to do our annual show about gratitude, the power of gratitude, and how you can actually use it.
Yep. Obviously, gratitude drives everything, and this is a fantastic time of year just to do that. So I'm still digesting my turkey, which, by the way, was the best one ever. We once had Rocio from Avon Prime Meats on our podcast a couple of years ago, and I saw her yesterday. I said it was the best ever, and she was, yay! We got it right, and it melted in your mouth. So
There you go.
leftovers were gone as of yesterday. So, but it's just a great time to get together. And one of the things that I came up with this year, because a lot of times when you have family gatherings and friends gatherings and so on and so forth, the first thing you kind of look at is the list, and maybe you only see them once a year, and maybe you just don't want to see them, or that they're just going to be negative all the time and so on and so forth, and it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And so what I suggested this year is that if you take a look, and you can do this now post Thanksgiving for next year, but take a look at everybody that you were in touch with over Thanksgiving, write down their name, and in a column beneath that, write down everything that you are grateful for about that person or those people, and reach out to those people if you can. But if not, just keep that in mind instead of the negatives. And you people who are out there having Thanksgiving holiday, if you had good times or bad times or whatever, this is a great way to prepare not only for Thanksgiving, but for life in general. Because if you can first just write down a person's name and just find something good about them, because everybody has great positive traits, it's so important to do that. I mean, when I do my presentations, I always talk about gratitude, and I always talk about appreciating people, and make every day a find somebody doing something good day and tell them.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. I mean, it's not just about finding the good things and being grateful for them, but sharing it. Actually say thank you. You know, it's amazing how powerful those two little words are. And I was just told a story not too long ago. This guy woke up wrong side of the bed, snapped at his wife. Well, this put her in a bad mood, so she started going about her day and snapped at their son. Well, this triggered the son to be in a bad mood, and he went off to school and got in a fight. And the whole point of this story is how contagious emotions are. Now, the story I'm telling was a negative emotion, but positive emotions have the same contagious effect. When you're grateful to somebody, when you share it with them, it puts them in a better mood, and maybe they'll share it and pass it on. And it's the power of those small things that we can do that really do have tidal wave effects.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the bottom line is we all have those feelings of unworthiness, but that person in the mirror that you look at every single morning and several times a day is created from unconditional loving kindness. And I don't care where you think creation came from, we all came from that area. We all came from good. And the bottom line is that if you look in the mirror and realize that, even though you have that feeling of unworthiness, just say, hey, I'm unconditionally loved. I'm unconditionally forgiven because you are. And it's by a source that's way beyond your comprehension. But that's just the way that things are out there. And you carry that forward and use that and treat everybody else the same way by just coming from a positive standpoint and looking for the good in people and acknowledging that rather than picking people apart. It's so important. I mean, this is a time of year where obviously when people get together, the biggest way they get in trouble is if they start trying to point out something that's wrong with somebody else, maybe from the kindness of their heart. But you got to realize that life is a lot more simple than you think it is. And it's human nature when people come at you that way to just automatically clam up and be negative and want to walk away. I know I've said this 100 times on this podcast, but people expect to be taught in school and they expect to be preached to in church, and that's it.
Right.
Not by a sibling or anybody else out there, even though they're quote unquote coming from the right place. Cause I really feel that obviously if you want to do good for them, that's great for you. And it's coming from a kind place, but it's also coming to kind of like, okay, this is the way that things should be. This is the right way to do things. And now is not the time to bring that up.
Right. And, it's not easy to always feel gratitude. I mean, things go wrong, things happen to us. So it helps to be able to latch onto something. Remember a strong memory, something that you enjoyed. And you'll be amazed at how that can generate that feeling of gratitude. Every Thanksgiving, I watch the Thanksgiving Day parade, like so many others. And I did not realize this, but this year was the 99th annual parade.
Wow.
And when they started talking about that, and they actually said during the broadcast, if you'd like to be here for the 100th parade next year, and they gave a website to go to or an app that you can get more information. And my first thought was, not, been there, done that. Because, well, I watched the parade now, and quite frankly, sometimes miss the beginning of it because I use Thanksgiving to catch up on a little sleep. But from the ages of 5 to 11, my Thanksgiving ritual was I got up at 3 a.m., got in the car, we all drove into Manhattan, and I was in the Thanksgiving parade for those years.
Wow.
And I rode, different floats during the parade, and thinking about this having, the 99th annual parade, and thinking about that history and realizing that in a small way, I actually got to be a part of that. That right there triggered all sorts of gratitude because this wasn't something I had any control over. This was a friend of the family decided they wanted to get me into the parade. And they actually got me in earlier than I should have been. I was too young to actually be in the parade, but they lied about my age. And we passed me off as a few years older, which was sort of funny because I was a very small kid. But we did that, and I got to ride the floats. I got to meet some of the celebrities on the floats, got to go to the after party at the parade. And just, of course, to show you how young I was, the big highlight for me at the after party was meeting the folks from Sesame Street. Yeah.
Wow. Doesn't get any better than that.
Right.
It's
But being able to remember that and think about that was a way for me to sort of forget all of the difficulties of the past year and really focus on things that, yes, you know what? I've got things to be grateful for.
So,
And we all have them, but sometimes we need a trigger to sort of think and remember them.
yeah, put those things top of mind instead of all the you know what that's going on in the world, and that's so, so important, and one of the neat things about it, um, my grandkids were here, and they were watching it from time to time. One of the neat things for me, obviously, number 1, just watching them enjoy it, but there's a whole bunch of wonderful people in that from all diverse backgrounds and all different types of professions and so on and so forth, but when any one of them was stopped to be interviewed about it, all it was just unconditional joy for being there in a parade.
Yes.
So you can start your own parade in your neighborhood or whatever. I mean, it's just so, so important to just kind of switch around your perspective, especially for that day. That's what it's all about.
And,
Gratitude.
it's funny that you mentioned that, the responses being interviewed, because one of my strongest memories of being in the parade was being on a float with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh, wow.
And one of the members of the Oak Ridge Boys spent the entire parade running up and down the float, yelling, "Can you believe we're in the biggest parade in the world?" He was so excited about being there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were acts up and down that have been around for many, many, many years and new ones. And the people who were closer to my age were having as much or more fun than the other
Yes.
one just because they're there again. I mean, some of them I said, wow, they're still around. It's just so cool. And obviously it's so much fun. It's so important to just celebrate life and do that. I mean, I think I've brought this up before because Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. And I think those of you who have listened to several of our podcasts know my family background. I moved out from Wisconsin to Connecticut when I was 9 years old. And I had a big family out there. I'm the oldest of seven out here. And, basically they wanted to start the family business out here. So my dad, being the youngest son, said, I'll go. And here we were. But twice a year on Thanksgiving and Memorial Day, my mom's parents always came out. So Thanksgiving was the only holiday of the year that I got to spend with, obviously, with 9 people in the family, including my parents. It was still big, but having company out here every single year, my grandparents, it's just so special. And I think that's carried over big time to today in our family. I mean, obviously, Thanksgiving is a huge holiday, which we host every single year. My mom used to do it. And then, we're coming around to Christmas time or whatever else you're celebrating. And that's fantastic too. But I was so thankful for that. And the Memorial Day parade too was a whole lot of fun. And I remember, my grandfather was kind of a crusty guy, but really, really funny. And Memorial Day parade, I used to play in our marching band, and we got dressed up in our green uniforms with the white bucks on it, probably all 25 or 30 of us. And as I was going out there, my grandfather always says, I hope you step in horse crap, Chip, in your white bucks. And these are things that I will remember forever. Just the way that things were. Here we are several generations later, and there's all kinds of other quirky things going on. And it's so much fun to reminisce that and just having gone through life we've both gone through, kids and so on and so forth. And, with me now, grandkids, and you hopefully soon, it's going to be, it's just so important to just take a deep breath and look around you and just celebrate things.
All right. And we've all got these memories to celebrate. I mean, no matter how horrible your life may seem, if you really stop and think about it. Now, first of all, we've all got at least one moment that we can look back on and say we're grateful for that moment. But, I hear lots of people complaining about this and that the economy, they can't afford things, whatever the complaint is. But you also have to put things into perspective. If you were born in the United States, the poorest person in the United States has more than 99% of the rest of the world. So you may feel a lack. You may feel that, oh, I don't have enough. I have, life is hard. Well, guess what? The fact that you are in the United States puts you head and shoulders above most of the rest of the world. And that's something to be grateful for. It's not something you had any control over necessarily, but it is a benefit that you received. So you can be grateful for that. And there's always, when you look hard enough, things to be grateful for. Even if you're going through an incredibly bad time, you can be grateful for the fact that you're almost through it. It's almost over.
Yeah. One of the things I'm reminded of, I think we may have gone over this book several years ago, but it's called A Complaint Free World, written by Pastor Will Bowen. And basically, Pastor Will Bowen, it ended up being a challenge to his church after he realized how much that he and other people complain. And he wrote a book about it, which took you through the 4 stages. I'm going to try and remember these correctly, from unconscious incompetence, which is a bad habit, to unconscious competence, which is a good habit. And basically, he issued a challenge there. I think it was like a 3 or 4 week challenge, and complete with a purple bracelet. And you put it on one of your wrists, and every time you complain, and thoughts don't count, every time you complain outside or doing this or that or whatever, you have to switch the wrist. And what the challenge is all about is keeping that bracelet on the same wrist for 21 straight days. And so basically, you do this at work. They did it at church and other places and whatever, and they got a bunch of purple bracelets. And I still think you can go to a completefreeworld.com and get the bracelets if you want to do this in the workplace or something like that. But you put the wristband on and you switch it in the first 10 minutes. It could be just a comment about somebody else or this or that or whatever. And now unconscious incompetence is the fact that we are all complainers. And that's the start. After switching it 5 times in 10 minutes, you now are consciously incompetent. You are conscious of the fact that you have a fault, that you are a complainer. And then the challenge is going 30 days without switching the wrists. And during that, you're going through conscious competence. And let's say that you're at work or sitting down with dinner with your family, and you say, okay, how was your day? And all of a sudden, instead of the normal stuff, there's just complete silence because nobody wants to switch their wrists. I mean, I think you're all kind of really, really realizing what's going on here and so on and so forth. But, and then if you can do that for 20, whatever the length of the challenge is, without switching wristbands, you've gone from unconscious incompetence, which is a bad habit, to unconscious competence, which is the good habit. So I highly recommend the book, A Complaint Free World by Will Bowen. But if nothing else, just by listening to this, I think you have a little bit of perspective on the way that we all are, because I'm exhibit A too, just like everybody else is. All I'm doing is bringing this to your awareness.
Yeah, we all fall into complaining. I mean, for myself, I literally just did it before going on this podcast, where I started complaining about being inundated with Cyber Monday emails. And it's something, I say this every year, but it never ceases to amaze me how quickly we go from Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for what I have, to Black Friday, oh, I need more. I don't have enough. It's just this flick of a switch. And you know what? For most of us, I actually try to do between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, with all of the sales go on. Generally, the only thing I buy is food. If I need food in the house, I go shopping. But other than that, I try to stay out of the stores, stay off of the e-commerce sites. I don't want to deal with it. And quite frankly, again, Thanksgiving always kicks off 4 days that I am taking off from work. I am trying to relax. And the constant bombardment of, oh, you need this, you should have this, you need more. It's like, no, that's not the mindset I want to be in. And that's a conscious effort. And that's something most of us don't often do, is to actually say, you know what? I want to be in a particular mindset and I am going to make that effort now to do that. And it's not necessarily easy. Like you said, we're all good at unconscious incompetence. But once you get to that conscious incompetence, it starts getting hard.
Oh, it does. Absolutely. And, I mean, basically, it just all comes down to awareness. And if you have the awareness that you can do these things that we're talking about, knowing that you're going to mess up time after time after time, you can just go back to that and just make the next present moment good. I mean, we talk about the present moment all the time, and that's all that we have. And if we're going to wallow in past as far as things that we've done bad that we're kicking ourselves in the butt for, you're doing that in the present moment. If you're going to worry about the future, you're doing that in the present moment. If you're thinking about something that you want that you don't have, you're doing that in the future too. It's just so, so important to put things in proper perspective. Much easier said than done, but you have the awareness. You can choose to do that at any point in time to work on that every single present moment. And if you simplify it down to present moments, it helps a whole lot.
All right. The fact that you had a complaint earlier, or, you got upset at something, or you didn't do something right. All right. Guess what? That's the past. There's nothing you can do to change the past. So don't worry about it. Acknowledge that you did this and move on. The past can't be changed. The future isn't here. The current moment is a gift, which is why it's called the present. And if you look at it that way and go, you know what? Yeah, there's nothing I can do to change the past. But you don't have to let the past control you. You don't have to let the past take control of your present moment and certainly not your future. You can choose to put the past behind you. Somebody did something that aggravated you. All right. Well, getting angry at them now because of something they did 2 years ago isn't going to change it. They did it. Try to let it go. And what I'm saying is a lot simpler said than done. But I went through a program, I think it was last year, that Dr. Joe Dispenza did. And if you have the streaming service Gaia, you can still watch this program. But in the first part of this program, he did a meditation that was all about gratitude. And it was about shifting yourself into the mindset of gratitude. Now, I'm not sure I ever achieved the mindset of gratitude while we were doing this meditation, but I certainly achieved a mindset of forgiveness and things that aggravated me, people that aggravated me, things that they had done in the past that were never going to be changed and really didn't affect me in the present, but still aggravated me. This meditation allowed me to let it go. And that's something, we don't talk a lot about forgiveness. We focus on gratitude, but the two are really do go hand in hand. Because if you're carrying grudges, if you're angry all the time, it makes it that much harder to find the things you're grateful for. So you really do need to let things go. And again, I know what I'm saying is a lot easier said than done. It takes work, but it's worth putting the work in.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've talked about the book, The Five Agreements, many, many times in the past. And basically, the five agreements are with yourself. And it's based upon Toltec wisdom that we are all artists as human beings. Our creation is all good. However, what we grow up with, as far as influences and so on around everything else around us, through that, we create in our own minds, our own thoughts, the way that we look at things and so on. And everybody is different. And so when you talk about somebody who's offended you and so on and so forth, they may not be coming from the same place that you are. In fact, they can't be. I mean, basically the 5 agreements is just number 1, be impeccable with your word, which just means be your true self. Number 2, really, really important, don't take things personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. Number 4, always do your best in the present moment. And number 5 is just question everything, but learn to listen to people. Now, between numbers 2 and number 3, don't take things personally and don't make assumptions. Basically, everything that we've learned during our lives, which is different for everybody, has caused us in our minds to create the way that we look at things. And so if somebody did something, for you to assume that they did it to hurt you is just because of the way that you think things should be. And in the book, The Fifth Agreement, there's a fantastic example of a movie theater, which I brought this up before, where there's 4 or 5 different movie theaters, and you walk in the first one and you see yourself sitting there, and it's a movie about your life. And you sit in back of you, and the you doesn't even recognize that you're there. And basically you agree with everything there. You go to the next movie theater, mom's there, and she doesn't recognize you either or acknowledge you. But that same movie is going differently because it's mom's world. And you're saying, wait a second, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. You go to the next one with your brother or your sister, your wife and whatever. And all of a sudden you're ticked off at everybody just because of the way that they have created in their own minds to look at things. Now, does that put things in perspective? But that is the truth. And so the bottom line is all you can do is do your best. You can question everything, but learn to listen, understand people from where they're coming from. And listening is one of the best possible things you can do to show gratitude and create gratitude and positivity in your life. Because if you can learn to listen and see people where they're coming from, that is so, so important just to acknowledge that. That's just acknowledging the good in everybody, starting with the person in the mirror. Because again, you got that same thing going on with yourself, and you should question a lot of things you're thinking about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, everything we experience is from our perspective. And since nobody else has that particular perspective, everything that happens to everybody happens in multiple ways based on your point of view, based on who's seeing it. And in fact, there are numerous TV shows and movies that have actually used that as a plot device where they'll tell the same story several times from different points of view. And of course, it's not exactly the same story because it depends on who has the perspective. But no matter what your perspective is, there's always something good. And I will say, if you're having trouble coming up with something that you're grateful for, something that puts you in that positive mood, work on it, figure it out, but then write it down. This way you don't have to try to remember it again. You can go to the Post-it, go to your journal, go to your index card, wherever it is you wrote it down, and go, what was it again that put me in that? Oh, right. Because if you write it down, 1, it's easier to remember, but 2, you don't actually have to always remember it because you can refer to it. And it becomes easier. And the more you do this, the more you write down, the more things you realize you're grateful for, the easier it becomes. Gratitude is like a muscle. The more you work at it, the stronger it gets. So we are just about at the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think the big takeaway for this week is?
Practicing gratitude, period. Uh, Basically, and there's a couple of tips for doing that. Number 1, you can start by writing up your own victory log, which is just writing everything great that's ever happened to you in your whole life, accomplishments, all those types of things, relationships. And then most importantly, once you're done with that, you'll see pages and pages of great things about yourself. But number 2, if you're not doing it already, start a gratitude journal, write it in every single day, start every day waking up with appreciation for the day ahead of you and the people around you, and go before you go to sleep, read the gratitude journal, think about that too, because you're going to marinate that. If you can start and end your day feeling gratitude, it's going to go a long way. So happy New Year as far as Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving, and wish you all the best for the upcoming holiday seasons, no matter what you're celebrating.
Yeah, again, there's always something to be grateful for, even if it's the little things like getting up. I remember reading an autobiography of George Burns, where in one of the early chapters, he talked about his mornings. And he says the first thing he does is gets up. And if he can get up, he sings a chorus of Honeysuckle Rose. And the next thing he does is he goes down to have breakfast. And he reads the paper and he goes to the obituaries. And if he's not listed, he sings another chorus of Honeysuckle Rose. Because just the fact that, yes, you're alive, you've got another chance to change things, you've got another chance to accomplish things, and you've got another chance to do whatever it is you can imagine. And it all starts with the power of gratitude and being grateful for those little moments and just grateful that you're here. And again, if you're having trouble finding something to be grateful for, start small. Be grateful you got up this morning. It's as simple as that. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.